Hello students, welcome back to your science class. So student, in the previous class, we had completed with the chapter that is matter around us pure, and today we will start with the biology chapter, and that is the fundamental unit of life. Fundamental unit of life. The fundamental unit of life. What does it mean, student? It means what is the basic unit of a living organism? How a living organism started? How we can say that a living thing is there, or we can say the living or a life is started. Okay. So basically, the fundamental unit or the basic unit of a living organism or of a life is what? That is cell. Like if you compare it with the matter, everything which is present around us is matter. So like if you say in a case of a matter, matter is what? It is made up of atoms. Everything which is present around us is what it is, which we can feel also, that is which we can which occupies mass and which have mass and occupy space, we call it matter. And the smallest unit of a matter, smallest unit of anything, we consider it as a what? That is atom. So everything which is present around us, that is made up of a atom. Similarly, when we talk about a life, when we talk about a living organism, so a living organism made up of a cell. Now let us try to understand about the fundamental unit of a life, students. So how this term, we came to know about the cell. Let us see here. While examining a thin slice of a cork, Robert Hooke saw Robert Hooke saw that the cork resembles the structure of a honeycomb consisting of a many little compartment. So it was Robert Hooke, when he was working on a thin slice of a cork, and when he saw that under his own made microscope, he found that there are small honeycomb like a structure. It is like a little compartment present at the thin slice of a cork. So actually the thin slice of a cork, it resembles a structure of a honeycomb, which basically consisting of a mini compartment. When you look at the structure of a honeycomb, student, you will find that it is like a compartment. So such a similar kind of a structure he find out in that thin slice of a cork. Now, what is a cork? Cork is actually a substance which comes from the bark of tree. And this was in the year 1665 when Hooke made this chance observation through a self-designed microscope. Yes, I told you that the cork is what? It is a dead cell actually, because it is obtained from the bark of the tree, student. Okay, so since it is obtained from the bark of the tree, it is a dead cell. And when he saw that under his own microscope, that microscope which was prepared, which was made by Robert Hooke itself, that self-designed microscope, he find out that the cork is what? Consisting of a little compartment, and that little compartment resembles like a honeycomb structure. So it is like a honeycomb structure itself. Now Robert Hooke, he called these boxes cell. And then why he called this cell? Because a cell is what? It is a Latin name, and it means little room. So since the structure was like a little compartment, that's why he has given the name as a cell. So from there this cell term came. So whenever the question is asked that who coined the term cell, it is the Robert Hooke. And why is it so? Because when he saw it under his microscope, he found that there are a small compartment or little rooms are there. That's why he has given the name to it, that is cell. This may seem to be very small and insignificant incident, but it is important in the history of science, and this was very first time that someone had observed that the living thing appeared to consist of a separate unit. And the use of the word cell to describe these units is being used till this date in the biology. So it seems See, earlier when he saw that of the cell, he said that it is like a little room, but later on it is it we have seen that uh, no, there are lot of living things are there. There are lot of separate units are present in that of the cell, which used to work in the cell. They are having this their own function which they used to perform inside the cell itself. So we should not give it a name of a cell, but uh, the word cell, still it is there, and still it means that still we are using it in the biology regarding the to explain that of the things or the cell and its function. Okay, now let us see that how a living organism it made up of. Okay, so till now we have seen, student, one thing, that how this term cell came, how we came to know about the cell. So the first time we have seen, we have understood it through Robert Hooke, and Robert Hooke, he saw it, he was working with a thin slice of a cork, and he find out that when he has taken this thin slice of a cork under his own self-designed microscope, he find out that they are consisting of a little room or little compartment in it. Now see here, what are living organism made up of? So let us see, let us find out that how this living organ, what are the things which is present in that of a living organism. Let us take a small piece from an onion bulb, and with the help of a pair of a forceps we can peel off the skin called epidermis. Actually, here it is talking about the onion peel, student, and the onion peel is what you have seen, the transparent portion of the onion. When you cut the onion bulb, inside that there is a transparent peel is there, student, and this peel off is what, this peel is what, it is the epidermis itself. Okay, so we can peel it from the concave side, from the inner layer of the onion. Now this layer which we have taken, which we have extracted, it will immediately put into the watch glass, which is containing water, which is consisting of the water. Why we are keeping it in the water? This question might be asked, that what is the reason behind it? Since this will prevent the peel from getting folded or getting dry. So first of all, we will take out the peel from that of the inner side of the onion, and then we will keep it in the watch glass, which consisting of the water. Why we are keeping it? So that it may not become dry. Now, what to do with this peel? Let us take a glass slide and put a drop of a water on it and transfer a small piece of a peel from the watch glass to the slide. Now we will take a small, even if from that peel which we have taken and which we had kept in that of the watch glass, we will take it out. Now we will cut it. We will take a small piece of that onion peel and keep it on the slide. Here on the slide, again we will put a few one drop of a water in order to maintain the moisture in the peel itself. Now we will take make sure that the peel is perfectly flat on the slide. Yes, there must not be any kind of a folding present on that of the peel. It should be properly spread on that of the, it should be perfectly flat on that of the slide. Now a thin camel hair brush might be necessary to help transfer the peel. So now we will take a paint brush in, maybe if suppose the peel, remember that whenever we take the peel from that of the watch glass, we will never take that of the forceps. Instead of that, we use the brush in order to transfer the peel from the watch glass to the slide. Now we put a drop of a saffron in solution on this piece, followed by a cover slip. Saffronin, why there is a need of a saffron in solution, students? So on that onion peel, we will add a drop of a saffronin, and the reason for keeping this saffronin, or one drop or a few drop of a saffronin on it, in order to for the staining purpose. So when we drop saffronin on that of the onion peel, it will stain that of the onion peel. okay, and due to which we will be able to see anything or see the parts of the onion peel easily under the microscope. So for staining we use the saffron in solution. We will add a few drop of a saffron in solution, and then we will put a cover slip. Remember student, before that we add the glycerine to it. And the reason for keeping the glycerine, the first thing, the glycerine help in maintaining the moisture which we want to provide to that of the onion peel. So as compared to that of the water, the glycerine will help in providing the moisture for a longer period of a time, and because of that we will use the glycerine. The second thing, why we are using the glycerine, the refractive index of the glycerine is quite high as compared to that of the water. And it is because of that it will make the thing very much clearly to us under the microscope rather than a water. So these are the two things by which we can say that we can use the glycerine after the saffron. So when we add one drop of a saffron, afterward we will add one drop of a glycerine, and then we will put a cover slip to it. Now what is the thing, what is the precaution that we have to take? Take care to avoid air bubbles while putting the cover slip with the help of a mounting needle. So with the help of the needle only you have to keep the cover slip on that of the slide. So why we are doing so? We are doing this because we do not want that any air bubble should interfere or should be present in it. What will happen if the air bubble will be there? If the air bubble will be there, then we will be not able to see that of the slide very easily. Okay, so while mounting, this is a temporary mounting which we are doing, students. So while mounting we must use the needle in order to keep the cover slip on it. Ask your teacher for help. We have prepared a temporary mount of onion peel. We can observe the slide under low power followed by high power of a compound microscope. So when we prepare this temporary mount of onion peel, we can observe that the slide, first of all we will observe it under low power, and then we will observe it under a power of a compound microscope. Okay. So by doing this we can find out that what are the low power and high power which will help us to see all the parts very clearly, very easily. See here, this is a microscope. Let me show you what are the things are present in the microscope. First of all, see students, you will find out this is the base. This is the base, students, base of that of the microscope. The second one, there is a mirror. What is the use of this mirror? This mirror help in taking the light which is coming from any source and reflect this light to that of the slide so that we can see it properly. Then this is what? This is the stage. Stage is what? Where we used to keep the slide over it. That is the stage. Stage is what? Where we used to keep anything, to perform anything. Similarly, we are going to see the slide. We have prepared here slide of a slide or temporary mount of an onion peel. So this peel has been kept over the slide. So obviously we have prepared a slide over it. So a slide will be kept on that of the stage. Then an objective lens is there, students. This objective lens is there in order to adjust and yes, that will also help in making the light to fall to the slide. Then the next one is the arm. Arm is what? Through which we will going to hold that of the compound microscope. Fine adjustment, you can see here, this is a fine adjustment and this is the coarse adjustment. So for fine adjustment we will going to use the small knob, and for coarse we will use the large one. And then an eyepiece is also there. Okay, so this is what, student, this is about that of the microscope, a compound microscope. So after preparing that temporary mount, we will going to use this microscope here. Okay, so under the low power and then under the high power, we will use the compound microscope to see the cell clearly. What do you observe after taking that temporary mount which we had prepared of that of the onion peel, and when we will kept it under that of the compound microscope? What is the thing that we will going to observe here? So, can we draw the structure? Let us, does it look like that, student? Yes, you will find that there is no intercellular spaces are present there. They are very much compactly arranged with each other. There is a nucleus which is present at the periphery and a large vacuole will be there. Although at a low power, what we will find here, students, we will find the cell membrane and we will find the small dot which is the nucleus. At a high power, we will see the cytoplasm also. Okay, so obviously it will depend upon the kind of a microscope which we are using. So basically we use the compound microscope to see the parts of the onion. So staining has been done in order to see the parts easily, and with the help of the compound microscope we are able to see it. Now we can try preparing temporary mount of peel of onion of different sizes. What do we observe? Do we see similar structure or different structure? So when you will cut the peel in all the different kind of a structure, and when you take each of the structure and try to see the structure under the compound microscope, we will not going to find the same kind of a shape, same kind of a size there. It varies. Okay, now let us see how. What are these structure? These structure look similar to each other. Together, they form a big structure like an onion bulb. We find from this activity that onion bulb of different sizes have similar structure visible under a microscope. The cell of the onion peel will all look the same regardless of the size of onion they came from. Obviously, students, either you can take any of the part of the onion peel, the parts you will find out there, it will remain the same and it will be visible under the microscope. So doesn't matter that what kind of a size of the onion peel you have taken, every time you will find a cell wall is there, then a nucleus will be there, vacuole will be there, and cytoplasm will be there. Obviously, so you can take any of a small part of the onion peel. This will going to show this basic structure in all of them. Now these small structure that we see the basic building unit of the onion bulb, these structure are called as the cell. So the small structure which we are looking there, which we are finding out that they are compactly with each other, they are actually the different cells which are connected with each other. And this is not only restricted to the onion, but this is present to all the living organism, that every living organism is what? It is made up of a cell. Okay, and these cells they have combined to each other and perform the different function. Now here a question arises, okay, that in organism there are a lot of cells are there which used to coordinate, which used to work together. But what will happen if there is only one single cell in an organism? Is such kind of a organism will be able to survive or not? Yes. So here we find out that the invention of a magnifying lenses led to the discovery of a microscopic world. See students, first of all you must know that every organism that is made up of a cell itself, and they are made up of a cell, and yes, there are organisms which are singular, which is having a single cell, which we call as a unicellular organism, and there are organisms which we call as a multicellular, made up of a many cell here. Now, the cell was first of all discovered by Robert Hooke when in 1665. This is really very important to know that Robert Hooke has discovered the cells in 1665. He observed that cell in the cork slide with the help of a primitive microscope. So with the help of his microscope, he see that of the cork slice. Then Leeuwenhoek, with the improved microscope, discovered the free living cell in pond water for the first time. So first of all, Robert Hooke, when he was working, he saw that uh, he saw that uh, the thin slice of a cork, and this thin slice of a cork is what? It is the dead one. So he was not able to see anything is present inside. That's why he has given the name here, little rooms there, or a compartment there. Later on, it was Leeuwenhoek who started working and who saw that the living cells are also there, cells are not dead. So with the help of his improved microscope, he was also called as a father of microscopy student because he worked a lot regarding that of the compound microscope. So with his improved microscope, he discovered that the free living cells in the pond, the living cells are present in the different position. It was Robert Brown who in 1831 discovered the nucleus in the cell. So who has given the term nucleus? Who has explained about the nucleus? It was Robert Brown. Then Purkinje. Purkinje, he Purkinje in 1839, he coined the term protoplasm for the fluid substance of the cell. See, when you look at the cell, student, later on in the same chapter we will going to study about that cell is what? It is basically divided into two different type of liquids. Fluids are present in it. The first fluid which is present in it is cytoplasm, which is the overall except that of the nucleus, everything, especially if the nuclear membrane is there, otherwise the common one only. And the second type of a plasma which is present there, it is what? It is a nucleoplasm present inside to that of the nucleus. And both of them, nucleoplasm and cytoplasm, is collectively called as a protoplasm. So it was Purkinje who has explained, who has tell about that of the protoplasm of the cell. Later on, a lot of a theory have been given regarding that of the cell, explained about the theory, students, but it was Sheldon and Swan and it was Rudolf Virchow who work on the cell theory and explain about it. So cell theory, that all the plant and animals are composed of the cell, and the cell is the basic unit of the life. So every living organism which is living around us, which is present around us, it used to they are what? They are actually made up of a basic unit that we call as a cell. And this cell theory was actually given by Sheldon and Swan. Who was Sheldon? Sheldon was a German botanist, and Swan, so that is a German zoologist. So Sheldon and Swan, both of them, Sheldon he was a botanist, so he worked with the plant. So he starts searching for the plant cell, while Swan starts searching for the animal cell. And when both of them come with their postulates, they found out that most of the postulates are common in case of the plant and animals, and on the basis of that, both theories has been given a name, that is cell theory. Although Rudolf Virchow, he also work on the cell theory, and he also add few postulate in that of the cell theory. So you can say he improvises that of the cell theory given by Sheldon and Swan. Now see here, what is the here? Actually, Rudolf Virchow, he explained a very important thing, that all cell arises from the pre-existing cell. Actually, he said that omni cellulae cellula. What does that mean? It means that every living cell is made up of a pre-existing cell. Okay. With the discovery of the electron microscope, it was possible to observe and understand the complex structure of the cell and various organelles. Before that, when the discovery of the microscope was not there, the people, they used to assume, as well as the things they used to see, they used to see that is not enough to understand about the cell. But later on, with the complex structure of the cell and with the electron microscope, we are able to understand and observe the structure of the cell and its organelle. Okay, so this is what, student, this is all about the cell theory. This is about the cell, discovery of the cell. This is about the nucleus as well as the protoplasm.